someone of one tradition says, well, that method's no good. Or we pour tea this way. Or we burn incense this way. We bow this way. We hug this way. It would be as silly as little children in their egoic, wayward ways say they want to understand love beyond the word and concept of love. So they go to the wise people in the community. They go to the grandmas. Let's say they go to the grandmas. And the grandmas embody this love. This love be lived continually. So they're in ceaseless love, ceaseless prayer, ceaseless presence of that. And a group of children go. They ask one grandma, they say, hey, what's love? And she says, oh, I can show you. Come, sit down. And she puts on a pot on the stove and she starts making oatmeal. And she presents the oatmeal. And the children eat it up and they say, wow, love.
It's all sugary oatmeal.
It's all
yummy.
sugary, buttery,
milky,
and well suited for that situation and those children and where they're at in their developmental understanding of love. And then they go to the neighbors and they say, hey, love is this. I know what love is. Love is an oatmeal with butter and maple syrup and whatever berries grandma put in it. And it is true. That was a method that carried the essence of love forward into a tangible, experiential experience for the children. So they weren't just eating oatmeal. They were eating prayer made visible, love made tangible. It was no longer just oatmeal as the material oatmeal. It was love made visible as the expression of a nourishing meal. And maybe these children, another group of children, they go to another grandma and they say, well, what is love? And grandma gives them a big hug, squeezes them real good. And maybe one kid, comes in from playing outside and he has a little skin on his knee and grandma tends to the wound. And they say, love is a big hug and wound care. It's tending to these wounds. True. But it's not limited to just that method. And there could be factions of kids, if they got too serious with their ego identities and group identities. We have it, they don't have it. And they say, well, our method of love is this, and your method is invalid. And there could be big wars fought over that. We see that on the world stage of this group fighting that group. The children really just want to be with grandma's loving presence. And what a bonus to have an oatmeal or wound care or a hug. What a bonus, super bonus. So those are added to the isness that's already ising.
You could also say that the children just want to be with grandma's love more than they even want the answer to the question of what is love from grandma.
Right.
So they come in asking the question, what is love? And then love greets them with an encounter, an experience far greater than any explanation they could have received verbally from grandma.
Yeah.
And then they tried, in their innocence, they tried to define love from after the experience and the encounter touched them. They tried to define love when they were back in their false sense of self. And their ideas now that they're carrying around about the way that love is, those are fabricated ideas. They're not the actual encounter of grandma's loving presence. And that's how it can easily lend to their personal sense of love versus another personal sense of love. The ideas about that love now warring against each other. But they didn't come in to get that question answered.
No.
They came in to have the experience itself, the direct encounter.
Yeah. And this is a really simple metaphor. What we really want is that presence of presence. Now imagine if one of the children got hung up on the oatmeal. And for whatever reason, the season of oatmeal just, there's less oatmeal, or, there's no oatmeal in the pantry.
Or the child fell in love with tea and there's no tea in the pantry,
Yeah.
which is a personal metaphor.
Yeah. Yep.
Or not the right tea.
Right. Or we have someone who we deeply connect with, a loving person, a relationship, a beloved romantic partner, a friend, or an animal, or a grandmother, a grandparent, a grandfather. Not all of us were given right from the get-go just really enlightened parents. But imagine if you had a real loving father, real loving mother, and then they passed through the human veil of appearance, and so they died on the physical, material sense. It can feel like a great, great loss. And so this can be an initiation for many into a deeper relationship with that belovedness that is still very much available.
Sometimes when we first start to find a tradition that feels like a home, because sometimes when we first read books or find a teacher, it feels like home. That's why we keep going back to that teacher teaching or method or practice. When we first start to feel home there, sometimes we feel at home, and then along the way we don't know that we're picking up dogmatic ideas that we're holding on to and forming new ways that we're viewing reality that we think is ultimate. So we have all these structures now, where instead of the old structures that maybe we were raised with from childhood, we've let that go to a degree, and now this teacher is more luminous or transparent to the truth. And so we're really grateful for it, and we start to see reality through that structure. And it is more helpful. It is far more helpful than anything that we have usually inherited from the human scene. And if the beloved is doing the beloved's job of helping you to continue coming home to the beloved, continuing on the path, there often comes a time when we get to see that the dogmatic ideas we're holding on to that we didn't know we were holding on to have to be let go of.
Yeah.
But in order to let go of those ideas, we have to let go sometimes of the tradition itself, the whole tradition, because the dogmatic ideas got interlaced even with our direct encounters with the beloved. You sometimes have to let go of the whole thing, and to let go of the whole thing that once felt like your home feels like that great tragic loss.
Yeah.
Feels like losing a beloved, and you feel completely disoriented.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let it go.
Yeah. So it's not that God or reality or truth is withholding. It's that we are not present to that presence that's infinitely presencing itself. Life wants to give you the very thing you're seeking, but not in the way the ego's trying to grab at it.
So we find a tradition, we find a book, we find a teacher. When we read that teacher teaching, or when we hear about it, something more is awakening in us. We're just so excited about that. And that which is awakening us, that which is that aliveness, that alive ground that's coming through and starting to change our lives just in minor ways, that's beautiful. That's the sincerity of us wanting to be real, wanting to let go of what isn't us. And we may find that that longing starts to go through a different tradition, and oh, there's a different way of saying it, and oh, there's a different thing over here. And the part that is the beautiful invisible thread that's like reeling us in closer to the beloved's heart, that is precious and beautiful. And so it's okay that we consent to the process of whatever tradition we're in. We don't need to leave that tradition.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for saying that.
And it's very, very important that we notice when the experience of being dissatisfied, which at first we don't know we're being dissatisfied. We're just usually, oh, let me go pick up a book. Oh, I don't feel quite right. Let me go over here. Let me do this practice because if I don't have this practice, I'm not okay. We're just beginning to notice that part of our experience, because that part of our experience is what the beloved, who's reeling us in with that invisible thread, is inviting us to let go of, because the beloved says, why are you doing that to yourself? That sounds too hard. Don't do that. I'm right here with you. So
it's like the beloved's leaving us breadcrumbs to invite us to the holy banquet of the ceremony of ceremonies, and entices us with what it knows we kind of like.
And that invisible holy ground that is touching something in us that's real, that's being communicated through the voices that we're trusting or the traditions that we're trusting, that invisible holy ground is what we really want. Grandma's loving presence is what we really want, the real direct encounter. And that's where we're invited into a presence practice, because no amount of words are ever going to do it for us eventually. We need a real encounter. And all these traditions, if they're living enough, are just pointing us back to the living ground, saying, hey, come have a real encounter now. Put it down, let it rest.